Good afternoon, everyone. This is Linda with Linda Sue Plants for You. Today I am going to do kind of a mixture here of some repotting. And we're going to start with the coleus. I'm not actually repotting that. I'm just doing a propagation on there. I've had a couple of requests asking how do I do that. And some of you, if you've been following me, you will remember that we potted this, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago or so. And my goal is to grow it up not only this trellis, but to get it as big as my original coleus. And if you want to hear the story about that, just go to my previous video and where it has the coleus on the front of the page, and you will hear how I started out raising a coleus indoors. And that was one of the questions that I had as well. Some people were not aware that you could grow coleus indoors, and yes, you can. Definitely, yes, you can. So the way that I propagate it, and it's just very simple, and it just depends on where you want it to bush out. And for this plant, as you can see, I've got it in a trellis. I got this at the dollar store, believe it or not. And we potted this up, like I said, about maybe a month or two ago, and it's really grown a lot. I keep it in my east window. It likes a good drink, but it doesn't like to stay moist. So I kind of let it dry out in between, and sometimes it goes a little too far, and you'll know that because the leaves will start to droop and actually start to curl. But you know, there's a fine line between that and overwatering. So they're not real fussy, but you do have to be careful with the watering on these, especially in the winter time. So right now we're just going to clip these, and I'm going to try to find the best spot to do that. I'm going to turn this around. And as you can see, we've got a lot of new growth down here, and we've got beautiful color. And you know, some people might just say, why don't you just keep trailing it up and letting it go? Well, yes, you can do that, but eventually it's going to get taller than this trellis, and then it's going to start to hang down. And if you like that look, then by all means do it that way. This is just one way to do it. There is no perfect way or right or wrong way to do it. And a lot of people don't even put these in trellises. They just keep pinching them back, sticking it back in the soil, so they get a very big and bushy plant. Ray on the Voodoo Garden, I don't know how many of you subscribe to him, but I love his channel, and he's got a lot of really good tips on things. And he has grown coleus. I think it was different from this one, a different type, but he grew a beautiful big coleus bush several times in his garden. And so there's all different ways to do it. This is just the way I did it, and I'm going to continue to do it. And my plan is, I want to, once this is really full, then I'm going to put it in an even bigger potting vessel, and I'm hoping to get it into a floor plant someday like I had my first one. And I'll just touch on that real shortly for just a quick minute here. For those of you who haven't seen the other video, I started out with a very tiny plant that I bought at a church carnival fair. And it really was this size, and it was half dead. And I took it home, put it in the east window, and I did bring it back to life. I revived it, and it just kept growing, and I kept pinching it back and putting it in the soil. And I've tried rooting these not only in soil but also in water. And folks, you know what? Either way works with these. There is no better way. They root great in soil, and they also root great in water. So whatever your preference. What I do find when you're rooting them, however, is when you root, at least for me, some plants, when I root them in water, when I then go to take and put them in soil, they do get a little stressed. And not all plants, but some of them do and some of them don't. So, and for this one, I don't want to take up the extra room for the bottle rooting because it's, I know that this will root very well by just snipping it off and sticking it right in the soil, which is what I'm going to do right now. But the end of that story was this plant ended up being, not this plant, but my original coleus ended up being, it was on a huge trellis. It was like 5 feet tall and 4 feet wide or something to that within those measurements, give or take half a foot or so. It was huge, and I lost it in a move. So unfortunately there was no good way to transport it, and it was a really horrible weather. We had like it was November here in Wisconsin, and it was one of those years where it was sleeting and snowing and cold and rainy for almost the whole month. So it was really hard to transport it, and I did end up losing it. But yes, in answer to the questions that I've gotten on this, yes, you can grow these indoors, and yes, they can get very big and beautiful. And I have found that their preferred spot, for me anyway, has always been the east window. And keeping in mind that that's going to change for different people, because you know, if you stand with a compass in your house, very rarely are your walls exactly north, south, east, and west. There's usually a little bit of variation, and sometimes that's all you need of a difference between two different people who are trying to do the same thing with the same plant. So just experiment, you know, with yourself and keep an eye on it. And if you're a plant lover, like most of us are, you'll know when if it's not happy there. But generally that would be the place to go. Alright, so real quickly, let's get this done because I have 2 plants I want to repot here today. And I want to get to those as soon as I can. I'm going to cut this one from this side so that you can see, hopefully you can see this. And as you can see how thick the stem, the main stem is, you can cut anywhere along here. I cut above the leaf. And wherever there is a leaf, if you cut above it, you're going to get new growth. So I hope that I'm making that clear, and I'm hoping you can see that. Flip this around here to see if maybe I need to. Unfortunately, I don't have a cameraman that can zoom in on for me, but if you can see here, in between these 2 leaves, I'm going to cut right here, right above this leaf stem. And it will branch out and make new side shoots. And then I'm going to take this and stick it in the soil. So we're going to do that right now. And I know for some of you, you're going to cringe, but just know that, let's see. Yeah. I actually think I'm going to do it right here where there's 2 sets of leaves already coming out. We're going to snip that. And I'm going to take these bottom leaves off. And again, I know that's hard to watch and cutting away perfectly good growth, but you'll be so happy you did in the end. I don't bother rooting these, and actually I'm not even sure if you can. I don't know. But maybe some of you, if you have a coleus, you might want to try doing a stem rooting. I'm not sure if you can root these or not, but I'm not going to take the time to do that because these grow so fast. And let's see, I think I want to put this one more towards the middle. Just going to make a hole, and you can see the where I cut off the leaves, and that's where the roots are going to form, all along that bottom piece. And all I'm going to do is simply insert it in the soil, pack it down a little bit, and I'm going to do the same with this one. And I can't really say for sure, but my guess is, if my memory serves me correctly, it'll only be a matter of a couple of weeks before this is back up to here again. So I think we're okay with that one. And this one I'm going to cut off a little bit higher. And again, I'm going to cut off these bottom leaves. You never want to put, gosh, you know, I should not say never, right? But typically you do not want to bury leaves in soil, because they will rot if they don't get air and light. But look how pretty and how healthy it is. Okay. So, and again, I know it's kind of a little bit of a setback for some, and it's hard for some to do that. But don't worry, please don't worry, because you really will get new growth here. And you'll be so happy that you did that, because it's going to get so full you won't even know what to do with what you have, because it grows very quickly. At least this one does. I guess I can't speak for all coleus, but this one definitely does. Now what I'm going to do here, as you can see, we've got, this is in front of these leaves here. And we don't want to block that off from the sun. So when I put this back in the window after I water it, I'm going to make sure that these leaves are still getting full sun in the morning in my east window, so that they continue to grow. And then you'll want to keep an eye on those too, because, and you may lose a few leaves on the bottom, but that's okay, because you're going to continue to do that if you're going to do this method. And eventually you're just going to have the whole top's going to be full, and the whole bottom is going to be very full of beautiful coleus. So I hope that answers some of the questions that I was asked. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please, give me a comment, shoot me a comment, let me know that you've seen it and that it was helpful. A thumbs up would be great, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And I think that'll do it for today. Just come back and stay tuned, because we're going to continue to do this again. And the next time, of course, we're going to put some in this side, and then we're going to do the other side. And before you know it, we're going to have this big, beautiful, bushy coleus plant. Okay. So, I'm going to get that out of the way. Now, I want to repot my purple velvet plant. And this is another plant that years ago I had a huge one. It was very full, and I think I gave it away. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to that one, but I kind of missed it. And so when I bought one for my granddaughter, it was just in a little tiny pot, and we grew it up and got it nice and full, and when she took it home, it didn't make it. So I'm making another one, and as you can see on here, I think you can see where I've made cuttings right there. And this is another very easy plant to propagate. And this also likes the east window. So, at least for me, that's where I have the best luck with these. So this is another one that I want to cut back right here. And we're going to do that, but I'm going to repot it. And what I want to do is the same thing that I did with the coleus. And I got myself a new tray. And some of you are going to say, oh, holy cow, that's way too big for that plant. Yes, it is right now, but it'll grow into it. And I'm going to just be very careful when I'm watering it, because when you have too much soil for the plant, there's nothing sucking that moisture out of the soil. So what happens is you end up rotting your roots. But when you've been growing plants for as long as I have, you usually have a sense of how much the plant drinks and how wet you should make it. I'm not always successful. Sometimes I mess up too. We all do. But I'm pretty sure that we're going to be okay with this one. And they didn't have the smaller ones, or I would have started out in the next size down. But that was the smallest they had. And I went to 3 different stores to get it. And this planter has to fit in a window. It's got a designated spot, so I have to work with what I have. Okay. So we're going to take this out of the pot. First I gotta get the... By the way, for those of you that still use the store-bought hooks, like I do, until I come up with a better method. These I get, this pot actually came with a different plant in it from Lowe's, and what I like about these is this turns. So when you have a hanging basket, you don't have to take the hanger off of the wherever it's hooked onto. You just keep turning it. And the good part about it is you can just turn it a quarter turn or a third of a turn. You don't have to have a where it's either this way or this way, because most hangers, that's how they come. So then your plant gets lopsided. So I really like these because this turns, and I get these at Lowe's. I'm not sure if Home Depot has that or not, but that's where I got this one. So just a little information for you there. Okay. We're going to loosen up the soil. And because I put this in here a while ago, I'm going to use my trusty green bowl, which most of you have seen. And that is simply in order to remove the old dirt and inspect it. If it's real old dirt, I don't even look at it. I just put it in this green container, and when I'm done, this goes out. But because this wasn't real long ago, I am probably just going to reuse the soil that's in here, because I haven't seen any bugs or noticed any problems with this plant. So I think we're going to just leave this in here. And look at all those roots. How healthy. And these will spread out. This plant grows very fast when it has good condition. And it's a little damp because I had to water it yesterday because I was actually going to film yesterday and I wasn't able to, and it couldn't wait another day. I had to put water in it. So I don't normally repot my plants when they're damp. I wait until they're on the dry side, but that's why. So, okay, I think maybe you can go a little bit higher. Keeping in mind, whenever you're repotting, that wherever the crown is, you never want to go above whatever is under the soil. So whatever's under your soil line, when you take it out of the pot, you want to make sure it's still under the soil line when you put it in the new potting vessel. If you don't, you're going to rot this. because it's used to being out in the air. It's not used to being in the soil. So it rots really easy. Oh, and there is one of my cuttings. So we'll put that one back in. But bring this up a little bit higher. And I have my shovel, but I love everything about the soil. I love the feel of it. I love the smell of it. There's just something very relaxing about working in the dirt. And yes, I did call it dirt. Now, this doesn't look like much now, but we're going to come back and visit it. I will come back and show you when it starts to branch out, and I will be taking cuttings periodically, and I will do the same thing that I just did with that coleus, okay? We're going to take and snip, and I'm going to show you this on this one. So I left this one here so that I could show you the procedure, okay? And once again, I'm going to, right above a leaf, I'm going to do this one. Oops. And it's going to branch out right where I cut it. And then we're going to cut these leaves off because we don't want those to end up in the soil. And this probably could be good over here. Now this leaf, you can see, is touching the soil. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. Actually, I have to bring the soil level off, so I'm going to just go ahead and snip that off right now so I don't end up with rotting leaves, because that attracts plant pests like fungus gnats, and I don't like fungus gnats. Okay. All right. The soil is made up of potting mix. That's what it is called, potting mix. And perlite and coco coir and some worm castings. I never measure when I put this together. Maybe someday I'll take the time to do that for those of you that are new in the plant world that need a little more precise information. But honestly, it really comes down to whatever you prefer. As you watch different videos, you'll see different methods, and you'll see different recipes for good soil, and most of them are all good and all acceptable. There isn't a whole lot of right and wrong. In some cases you have to be a little careful when you're dealing with orchids or, you know, cactus. Then and succulents, then your mixtures are going to vary a little bit, but for the most part, and I have seen people use this same soil mixture even for those without any issues. But if you want the optimum benefits for that particular plant, then you might want to do some research on that. But anyway, so this is it. And we're going to put that in my laundry room, in my east window. I'm going to have to water that. And we're going to put this in there. Whoops. And my hope is that it's going to, and I'm sure it will eventually climb up this little trellis. And I really like that look, as most of you probably know by now. And I'm hoping it'll take up that whole window in my laundry area. And when it starts doing that, then I'll show it to you when it's more established, okay? All right. And last for today, most of you have seen the philodendron video I did the other day. Got a couple clumps here. Okay. And that was with my husband. He was kind enough to let me borrow him as a plant hanger. We have beams in our living room that I want to hang this plant from, and I want it to grow along these beams. And this plant is extremely prolific in its growth. I think we estimated it to be between 5 and 6 feet long. Hopefully you can see. Well, my husband actually held it up in front of the refrigerator so that you could all see, and that was in a different video. So if you want to go back and look at that, you'll be able to see the whole length of it. But for right now, this is for repotting purposes, and that's what we're going to do. I have a good clean pot, and I always start with clean pots. I think that is important, and it just gives me peace of mind too. And it has drainage, and it has drainage holes in here. So that is going to be hanging up eventually. But for right now, I love the smell of that soil. Love, love, love. And I know that the soil is really good in here, in this plant, because it too was just repotted not that long ago, but it really likes where it's living, so it just grew like crazy. Right now I'm just taking off the hangers because I don't want them to get in the way of transferring this plant from this pot to the next one. Okay. And as you can see, this is one of those hangers that doesn't turn. It's got a flat, so you have this side or you have this side. So I actually had this hook hanging in a swivel hook so that I was able to turn it a little bit each day. But I'm going to be putting it in this one that I showed you earlier, because it turns all the way around, and then that way we can get an even growth by turning it, and the sun we'll hit it in different places all the time. Okay, we're going to do the normal thing that we always do and squeeze the pot. Try to loosen it up a little bit. Ooh, this feels really rebound. You know, it's possible I maybe should have gone with an even bigger pot, but I don't think I'm going to do that right now. I'm just loosening it up, folks. Trying to get it to come out of the pot without damaging it. Oh, I can hear roots. I can hear the roots breaking. Yeah, they must be on the bottom here in the underneath the drainage tray that we put in the bottom of the pots. All right. Those of you that know me know that this is my official root loosening tool, also known as a butter knife. Works great. And I know I'm not the only one that does it. And that's okay. Whatever works. The less money we have to spend on fancy tools, the more money we have to spend on our plants. And I don't know about you, but that works great for me. There it comes. Wow. Well, this is a great lesson. And the lesson is, when your heart is telling you, and your heart and your mind and your common sense is telling you, you really should repot that, I guess I shouldn't ignore. Look. I mean, it's got a lot of healthy roots, but I have to get that out of there. That plastic drainage tray is in there. It grew right around it. And you know, it doesn't matter what you put under there, whether it's the drainage tray or pebbles or stones. I've seen that happen with that as well, where the roots, they're going to seek that water when they're thirsty. And it doesn't matter what you have down there, if they're thirsty and the roots are dry, they're going to head down there. What it does do is it keeps them from rotting before they get to that point. But now, as you can see, that wasn't doing it any good anymore, was it? Because those roots were on the bottom. So if I had overwatered it, these bottom roots would be sitting in water, and actually they are a little damp and the rest of this is very dry. So that kind of speaks to my point, right? Alright, I don't really want to cut these, but I don't really have a choice. This is... Oh, maybe I do. Maybe I can cut the plastic. Hold on. And I don't know for sure when it comes to the right and wrong way. I've never really been comfortable cutting roots away from a plant. I just feel like they're there for a reason, and and that I shouldn't do it. And I don't know if it matters or not. So maybe someone out there who has that answer could make a comment and help all of us out so that we know the difference. Well, here, see, and I have to think that these were helping to feed the plant. So in my mind, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a couple of yellow leaves. I mean, I know it's not going to kill the plant, but I'm thinking it. But I've seen other people on YouTube, you know, cut away a whole bunch of the root system, and it doesn't appear to hurt the plant, although I don't know that we get a follow-up, so I don't know if it did or it didn't, but so if anybody knows the answer to that, let me know. I know there are some plants, like rose bushes, when you do repot them or when you first buy them and bring them home, you're encouraged, you know, to bring the root system out. And I do that because you don't want them to just keep growing in a circle. But I'm not sure about if cutting them away does any damage or not. But maybe someone out there would know the answer to that, and I would love to hear it, and I'm sure others would too. Okay, folks, this is it. I'm going to put this in here. And I'm just going to scrape a little bit of this off in the top. It's old looking and yucky. To make room for some fresh soil. Remembering that we don't want to put that soil line any higher than what we already had it. I know there are a few plants that doesn't matter, but this is not one of them. I know tomato plants you can plant the whole stem and it won't hurt it, but when it comes to houseplants, I'm not sure which ones you can do that with and which ones you can't. Alright, so we're going to put some dirt in here and this would be a good time for me to let you know that I do appreciate your comments very, very much. I look forward to them, and I just really like being in touch with other plant people. It's, you know, most of us don't have family members that share our passion, at least not to the extent that we do. I am very, very fortunate that way because my husband happens to like flowers, and he does get interested in my plants, but certainly not to the extent that I do. And I know there's others of you out there that have the same issue. And let's face it, folks, us crazy plant people, we could probably talk about plants all day and night and never get tired of it, right? So do leave a comment or a question if you have one, or advice if you have that. Don't be afraid to do that, please, on my channel. I don't mind at all. Anything that'll help anybody else is more than welcome. Constructive comments, I just ask that you be kind in your messages. We got enough horribleness going on in the world today. We don't need to add to it. Okay. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. I really would appreciate your support. You can give me a thumbs up if you like my videos. I got a hunch this is really going to take off now with the new fresh soil and the time of year. I don't know about you folks, but holy cow, I can barely keep up with all the rain that we've had. Even though we haven't had a lot of sunshine, I do have a lot of LED lights, and so it's really not affecting my indoor plants too much. and because of the high humidity and the time of year, my plants are just going crazy. And that's a good problem to have, isn't it? If you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. Okay. I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and put the hanger back on it. And then I'm going to hang it up in the living room. And it's going to be trained to go across our beams of our cathedral ceiling there, vaulted ceiling. And our goal is that someday these plants will hang down from there, not just go across the beam, but that they'll actually hang down, and it'll be like a little forest in here. And both my husband and I are excited about that. So I will probably do an update once I have this hung up and show you where it ended up. But for right now, we're just gonna say goodbye, I think. And I want to thank you all again for watching and supporting me, and those that are faithful in coming back. Thank you so much. It's really, really appreciated. You don't know how much I look forward to that, hearing from you, and I hope to hear from you again. All right, so you please have a great weekend. Drive safe. Be happy, and come on back. All right, thank you. Bye now.